Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Feeding the Curious Mind. My name's John Puller and I'm a writer of fiction and non-fiction books. We probably all can remember teachers that had a positive effect on us. I had two in particular who advised me to become a professional writer. I ignored them for many years and went through a number of other professions, which I am quite happy that I did. But eventually they proved themselves to be correct, and that's what I do now. I'm sure you can remember the same, but I suppose there are also teachers you may remember that put the fear of God inside you. They were their own masters of their classroom. However, the one I want to tell you about now will put all of those, I hope, into some perspective. We're going to go back to the 17th century and a Dr. Richard Busby. Now, he was educated at Westminster School, a very famous school, and eventually he became headmaster of the same school. He ruled the school with absolute authority. No one was allowed to say anything against him or to him, including the teachers. He once said that over his 58-year of being headmaster of the school, he had flogged every child that had passed through it. I suppose he'd now be serving a long prison sentence. One teacher went up against him, and Dr. Busby then got together a gang of the schoolboys, and he gave them axes and clubs, and they went to this wooden staircase that led up to the rooms the teacher lived in within the school grounds, and they destroyed the staircase. So much so that he had to escape his room by coming down on a rope. He then went to the headmaster and profusely apologised for what he'd said, and he was allowed back into the school. So that gives you an idea of what he was like, or does it? He went on to say that he was the most powerful person in the country. Well, okay. He then said he was more powerful than the king. Now, at the time, the monarch was Charles II. And it just so happened that one day, Charles II actually turned up at the school to visit. He met Dr. Busby. Busby was wearing a hat, and as was the norm, it was expected that as he met the monarch, he would remove his hat in respect. He refused, saying that he could not show that he paid any respect or was lower than anybody else in the country. He couldn't do that in front of his boys, he told the king. Well, let me read something here on what was his main reason for saying what he did. On the occasion that Busby was challenged over the importance of being the headmaster, this he answered: "The fathers of my boys rule a country." It's probably true because Westminster School did have many politicians who were educated there, as they are now. "The mothers rule the fathers, the boys rule the mothers, and I rule the boys." Well, that was his excuse. And although some people would say he was eccentric, others would say, well, he was mad. So I hope now that as you think back to some of these stranger teachers you may have had during your education, perhaps you'll realise things could have been a lot worse.